Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today I want to share a story that truly touched my heart, one that reminds us about the incredible power of love, especially when it asks for absolutely nothing in return. Grab a tissue, because this one might just get you a little misty-eyed, but in the best possible way. Imagine this. It's late evening, the streetlights are just starting to glow, and a small independent shoe store is winding down for the night. The owner, a kind-faced man named Mr. Henderson, is just about to flip the closed sign, maybe thinking about heading home for a quiet dinner. He's tidying up the last few displays, the soft jazz playing faintly in the background, a typical end to a typical day. But then, just as his hand reaches for the lock, the bell above the door jingles, and in rushes a small young boy. Now this wasn't just any boy. He was tiny, perhaps no older than 7 or 8. His clothes, while clean, looked a bit worn, clearly well-loved and mended. But what really caught Mr. Henderson's eye was the boy's hand. Clutched tightly in his small fist was a handful of coins, an assortment of pennies, nickels and dimes, glinting under the store's warm lights. He looked a little out of breath, as if he'd been running, and his eyes, wide and earnest, scanned the shelves with an urgency that wasn't common for a child in a shoe store. He finally spotted something that made his eyes light up, a small, hopeful spark in their depths. He walked straight past the colorful sneakers and the sturdy boots, past the practical everyday shoes, and went directly to a display near the counter. There, nestled amongst shimmering silks and elegant leathers, was a pair of shiny black heels. They were sleek, elegant, and had just a hint of sparkle. Truly a beautiful pair of shoes, the kind that make you feel special when you put them on. The little boy pointed to them, his finger trembling slightly. His voice, small but clear, cut through the quiet store. "Sir," he asked, looking up at Mr. Henderson with an innocent, hopeful gaze, "can I buy those shoes for my mom?" Mr. Henderson, a man who had seen countless customers come and go, couldn't help but smile gently. He knelt down, trying to meet the boy at eye level. He could see the determination in the child's face, but also the vulnerability. "Those are very beautiful shoes, son," he said, his voice soft and kind. "They're also quite expensive. Who are they for?" He wanted to understand, to maybe guide the boy to something more within his apparent budget, perhaps a small gift for his mother that wouldn't cost so much. The boy's answer, though, was not what Mr. Henderson expected. The child took a deep breath, his small chest rising and falling. His eyes, usually so full of childlike wonder, now held a profound, heartbreaking sadness. He looked directly at Mr. Henderson, and in that moment, the shopkeeper saw not just a boy, but a heart full of immense love and sorrow. "My mum's been sick for a long time," the boy began, his voice barely a whisper, thick with unshed tears. "A really long time. And tomorrow is her first day in heaven." He paused, struggling to compose himself, his small hands still clutching the meager coins. "I want her to have something nice to wear when she meets God." The words hung in the air, heavier than any silence Mr. Henderson had ever known. The shopkeeper, who had been about to suggest a cheaper pair, or perhaps a small colorful accessory, froze. His kind smile slowly faded, replaced by an expression of profound shock and deep empathy. He looked at the boy again, really looked at him. He noticed the faint smudges on his face, the way his worn jacket seemed a bit too thin for the cool evening air, and the slight tremor in his small, determined hands. He imagined the journey this little boy had made, counting out every single coin, maybe saving them for weeks, all with this one beautiful, heart-wrenching purpose in mind. He wasn't buying toys or candy. He was buying dignity, respect, and a final, loving gesture for the most important person in his life. It wasn't about the shoes themselves. It was about the purest form of love a child could offer. Without another word, Mr. Henderson slowly stood up. His eyes welled up, but he blinked them back, wanting to be strong for this little one. He walked deliberately to the display case, carefully opened it, and gently lifted the shiny black heels. They caught the light gleaming softly, almost as if they understood the profound weight of their journey. He took them to the counter, found a beautiful shoebox and carefully wrapped them in tissue paper, then placed them inside. He tied a delicate ribbon around the box, adding a small, simple bow. He looked at the boy, who was watching his every move with wide, hopeful eyes. Then he looked at the handful of coins the boy was still holding out, an offering of all he had in the world. Mr. Henderson gently pushed the boy's hand back towards him, closing the small fingers over the coins. "Your mom will absolutely love these," he said softly, his voice thick with emotion, trying to keep it steady. He extended the beautifully wrapped shoebox to the boy. "Please take them. They're a gift. From me to your mom." The boy's eyes widened further, not understanding at first. But I have my money," he stammered, still offering the coins. Mr. Henderson just shook his head, a tender smile returning to his face, though his eyes were still glistening. "Consider it a special delivery just for her," he said, his voice a little shaky. "Sometimes the most important gifts are given freely from the heart." The boy, clutching the elegant box, still looked a little bewildered, but also incredibly grateful. He whispered a heartfelt, "Thank you, sir," his eyes shining with unshed tears of relief and love. Then, carefully cradling the precious package, he turned and, with a final small wave, walked out of the store, disappearing into the twilight. Mr. Henderson stood there for a long moment, watching the street where the boy had vanished. The quiet of the store felt different now, imbued with a sacred presence. He looked down at his own hands, then at the small empty space on the display where the beautiful heels had sat. A wave of emotion washed over him. He walked over to the door, slowly, deliberately. He took the open sign and flipped it to closed. He turned the lock, sealing the store for the night, not just from customers, but from the demands of commerce, from the usual routines. Then he leaned against the door, the tears that he had held back for the boy now silently falling down his cheeks. They weren't tears of sadness, not entirely. They were tears of profound understanding, of empathy, of witnessing something so pure and selfless that it broke through all the cynicism and worries of the adult world. That night, Mr. Henderson didn't go straight home. Instead, he found himself driving. He drove through the quiet streets past the sleeping houses until he reached the town's old cemetery. The moonlight cast long, dancing shadows among the headstones, and the air was still and cool. He walked among the rows, searching until he found a simple, weathered grave. The stone read, "Loving Mother and Friend." He knelt beside it, the grass cool and damp beneath his knees. He didn't know this woman. He had never met her, but he felt an undeniable connection to her through her son. Gently, reverently, he placed a single perfect red rose on the grave, its petals unfurling in the soft night air. He closed his eyes for a moment, gathering his thoughts, processing the extraordinary encounter. Then, in a voice barely above a whisper, a voice filled with wonder and respect, he spoke to the silent stone. "Your son," he murmured, the words catching in his throat. "Your son has the biggest heart I have ever seen." He stayed there for a while longer, reflecting on the profound lesson he had learned that evening, a lesson about a love so deep, so innocent, that it transcended life itself. This story, friends, is a powerful reminder that sometimes the purest and most beautiful forms of love are found when we ask for nothing in return. It's in those selfless acts, those quiet gestures, those moments where we give freely from our hearts, that we truly connect with what it means to be human. It's a love that transforms not just the recipient but the giver, and anyone lucky enough to witness it. Today we're diving into a story that truly warmed my heart, a story that reminds us of the incredible power one person can have in another's life. It's about a teacher, her seemingly lost student, and a miracle born from unwavering belief. So grab a comfy seat, maybe a tissue, and let's get into it. In a quaint little village, nestled among rolling green hills, stood a small brick schoolhouse. It was the heart of the community, and at its very core was a woman affectionately known by all her students as Ma Am Hope. Her real name was Mrs. Das, but her nickname was far more fitting. For 40 years, Mrs. Das had graced those classrooms, a beacon of light and learning. She had seen generations come and go, taught countless children their ABCs, their history, their dreams. She never missed a single day of teaching, a testament to her dedication and her profound love for her profession. Her classroom was a sanctuary, filled with the gentle rustle of turning pages, the murmur of young voices, and the quiet, steady presence of a woman who believed in every child who walked through her door. But even with a career spanning 4 decades, filled with so many bright, eager faces, There was one student who stood out, one memory that time could never fade. His name was Raju. Now, Raju was, to put it mildly, a challenge. From the moment he entered her classroom, it was clear he was different. He struggled with reading, his eyes often scanning lines of text without truly comprehending. His temper was quick, leading him into more playground scuffles than any other child. And homework? Well, homework often went undone, forgotten, or simply ignored. Other teachers, weary and frustrated, had already labelled him. They called him a lost cause, a troublemaker, someone destined for a difficult path. They'd shake their heads, sighing, convinced that Raju was beyond help, beyond redemption. But Ma'am Hope, she didn't believe in lost causes. Not for a single moment. She saw something in Raju that others missed, perhaps a flicker of potential, a cry for understanding, or maybe just the inherent worth of a young boy who needed someone to see him. While other teachers might have given up, pushing him to the side, Mrs. Das did the opposite. She leaned in. She stayed after school, long after the last bell had rung and the other children had scampered home. The classroom, usually bustling, became a quiet haven for just two. Day after day she sat beside Raju, patiently, painstakingly, teaching him letter by letter, then word by word. It was a slow, arduous process, filled with tiny victories and frustrating setbacks. She never scolded him, not once. There were no raised voices, no harsh criticisms, only gentle encouragement, a steady hand guiding his, a kind smile that told him, "You can do this." She celebrated every small achievement, a correctly sounded word, a sentence finally understood, a moment of focus that lasted a little longer than the day before. She made learning an adventure, turning letters into characters in a story, numbers into secret codes. She wasn't just teaching him academics, she was teaching him self-worth, resilience, and the belief that he was capable of more than anyone, especially himself, dared to imagine. She saw through the anger and the frustration to the scared, confused boy underneath, and she offered him not judgment, but unwavering support. She taught him that mistakes were just stepping stones, not roadblocks. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, Raju began to change. He still had his struggles, of course, but the fights lessened, the homework started appearing, albeit sometimes messily. He learned to read, stumbling at first, but then gaining momentum. He learned not just from the books, but from Mrs. Das's steadfast belief in him. Her hope was contagious, and it began to ignite a spark within him. He started showing glimpses of the bright, inquisitive mind that had been hidden beneath layers of frustration and despair. Years passed, as they always do. Raju eventually moved on from Mrs. Das's classroom, then from the small village school itself. He vanished from her life, as so many students do, carrying with him the lessons and the silent blessings of his Ma'am Hope. Mrs. Das continued her teaching, molding young minds, but she often wondered about Raju. Had he made it? Had he found his way? She worried sometimes, fearing that perhaps he had dropped out, succumbed to the predictions of the other teachers. It was a lingering question, a small ache in her otherwise joyful heart. She had planted the seeds, nurtured them with all her might, but what had grown from them? She could only wonder. One particularly rainy morning, the kind where the sky weeps relentlessly, Mrs. Das was sitting by her window, a cup of tea warming her hands, lost in thought. A sudden, polite knock echoed through her small cottage. She rarely had visitors on such a dismal day. With a slight sigh, she pushed herself up and walked to the door, peering through the peephole before unlatching it. And there he stood. A young man, tall and poised, clad in a crisp white doctor's coat, the kind that spoke of professionalism and dedication. He held a large umbrella, sheltering himself from the downpour, but his eyes, though filled with a quiet intensity, were unmistakably familiar. He looked different, grown, mature, but those eyes, those were Raju's eyes. "Ma'am?" he began, his voice a little shaky, thick with emotion, as if the words had been held captive for too long, finally bursting free. "Ma'am, I came to tell you that the boy you never gave up on is now a surgeon." Mrs. Das gasped, her hand flying to her mouth, tears immediately blurring her vision. A surgeon. The boy everyone had called a lost cause, the boy who couldn't read, who got into fights. He was now a surgeon, a healer, someone who saved lives. The irony, the sheer beauty of it, was almost overwhelming. Raju continued, his voice gaining strength though still tinged with the emotion of the moment. You gave me more than just lessons, ma'am. You gave me belief. When everyone else saw a failure, you saw possibility. You taught me that even when things are hard, you keep trying. You taught me that I was worth fighting for. Mrs. Das, tears now freely streaming down her face, reached out a trembling hand and gently touched his arm. A warmth, deeper than any sunshine, filled her being. This was her miracle. This was the fruit of her unwavering hope. No, Raju, she whispered, her voice soft, barely audible through her joyful sobs. You gave me proof that hope never fails. And there it is, my friends. This beautiful, powerful story about Mrs. Das and Raju is a profound reminder for all of us. It illustrates a truth that we often forget in our busy lives. The seeds of belief you plant in others can grow into miracles you may never live to see. Mrs. Das didn't know what Raju would become when she stayed late with him, teaching him his letters. She just knew he needed her belief. And because of that, a life was transformed, not just for Raju, but for all the patients he would go on to save, and for Mrs. Das, who received the ultimate validation of her life's work. Think about that for a moment. Who in your life could use a seed of belief? A kind word, a moment of encouragement, a steadfast conviction in their potential, even when they can't see it themselves. It could be a child, a friend, a colleague, a family member. You might never witness the full bloom of what you've planted, but that doesn't diminish its power. Your belief, your hope, can be the catalyst for someone else's extraordinary journey. It can be the quiet force that turns a struggling individual into a surgeon, a leader, an artist, or simply a person who believes in themselves. This story reminds us that true success isn't always about grand gestures or immediate results. Sometimes it's about the patient, persistent, often unseen acts of kindness and faith that ripple outwards, creating changes far beyond our imagination. So let's all strive to be a ma'am hope in someone's life today. Let's plant those seeds of belief, water them with encouragement, and trust that miracles will grow. What do you think about this incredible story? Has there ever been a ma'am hope in your life who believed in you when no one else did? Or perhaps you've been that person for someone else. Today I want to share a story that truly touched my heart, a reminder that even in our darkest moments, love can illuminate the path forward. It's a powerful narrative about finding strength in unexpected places, and how the words we cherish can become the very wings we need to fly. So, let's dive in. Our story begins with Maya. After her beloved father passed away, she found herself in a place many of us can relate to, a heavy, silent world cloaked in grief. She returned to her childhood home, not just a house, but a sanctuary filled with echoes of laughter and love. Yet now it felt different. It was quiet, too quiet, every corner seemingly accumulating dust not just from neglect, but from the weight of unspoken sorrow. Each object, each photograph was a vivid memory, and walking through those familiar rooms felt like navigating a museum of her past, beautiful yet profoundly painful. The air itself seemed thick with memories, each one a bittersweet whisper. Maya felt an overwhelming urge to clean, to organize, to perhaps in some small way bring order back to the chaos within her own heart. She started in his study, a room that used to buzz with her father's thoughtful presence now eerily still. As she began to clear his desk, a space that once held so much of his world, his books, his pens, his notes, she felt a surge of emotion. It was more than just cleaning. It was a ritual, a silent conversation with the man she missed so dearly. She carefully lifted a stack of old papers, a forgotten coffee cup, and then her hand brushed against something tucked deep inside a drawer. It was an old letter. The paper was yellowed with age, soft to the touch, and the ink, though faded in places, still held the firm imprint of his handwriting, a script she knew as well as her own. The words, though simple, hit her with the force of a tidal wave. "My dearest Maya," it began, and just reading those words, in his voice, in her mind, brought tears to her eyes. When life becomes too heavy, "Remember the day you fell while learning to ride your bicycle." She remembered that day so vividly, the scraped knees, the wobbly handlebars, the sting of tears. She remembered her father's patient smile, his reassuring hand. The letter continued, "You cried, but then you stood up and tried again. That's who you are." A gasp escaped her lips. He saw her, truly saw her even then. He understood her resilience, her unwavering spirit, even when she herself had forgotten it. "You don't need to be perfect, just brave enough to keep trying." Those words, so gentle yet so powerful, shattered the dam of grief she had unconsciously built around herself. Maya broke down, tears streaming down her face, but these were different tears. They weren't just tears of sorrow, but of recognition, of connection, of a profound love that transcended even death. She clutched the letter to her chest, feeling the crinkle of the old paper against her skin, a tangible piece of her father, speaking directly to her, right when she needed it most. It was as if he was there, holding her, whispering encouragement. That night, something shifted within Maya. She had been running not physically but emotionally from her grief, from the raw, aching pain of loss. She had lost her way, losing touch with parts of herself that had once brought her joy. Among them was her passion for writing, something her father had always encouraged, praising her stories, urging her to put her thoughts on paper. For a long time, the words had simply stopped flowing, paralyzed by sorrow. But with that letter in hand, a quiet resolve began to settle in. She stopped running. She stopped hiding from the pain and instead decided to embrace it, to channel it, to transform it. She picked up a pen, a feeling she hadn't experienced in what felt like an eternity, and began to write again. At first, it was just a trickle, a few hesitant words on a blank page. But soon the words began to flow, first about her father, about his life, about their memories, and then about the letter itself, its profound impact, and the enduring power of his love. She wrote about the struggle, the healing, the rediscovery of her own strength. It was a cathartic process, a way of keeping her father's spirit alive, of continuing their conversation. She poured her heart and soul into every sentence, every paragraph, crafting a narrative that was deeply personal, yet universally resonant. Years passed, and Maya's journey of healing and creation continued. Eventually, her book, titled Letters from the Drawer, was published. It was a raw, honest, and incredibly moving testament to love, loss, and the resilience of the human spirit. The book wasn't just a collection of words, it was a beacon of hope. To her astonishment and with a humble heart, Letters from the Drawer became a bestseller. It wasn't just a book, it was a conversation starter, a source of comfort for countless readers who had experienced their own forms of grief and loss. Millions found solace in Maya's story, seeing their own struggles and triumphs reflected in her words. Her journey became an inspiration, showing them that even after life's hardest blows, it is possible not just to survive, but to thrive, to find new meaning, and to carry love forward in new ways. Maya dedicated the book to her father, the man who had taught her the most profound lesson of all, that love never really leaves. It doesn't vanish when someone departs from this world. Instead, it simply changes form. It transforms from physical presence to cherished memory, from spoken words to written wisdom, from daily interactions to an enduring legacy that guides us, strengthens us, and reminds us of who we are. His letter, a simple piece of paper tucked away in a drawer, became the catalyst for her healing, her purpose, and ultimately her triumph. The message woven through Maya's story is beautifully clear. Sometimes the words we leave behind become the wings others need to fly. Whether it's a letter, a conversation, a piece of advice, or a simple act of kindness, our impact on others can resonate far beyond our immediate presence, helping them navigate their own challenges and discover their own inner bravery. What an incredible story, right? It reminds us that even when we feel alone, love truly does endure. So, I hope Maya's journey resonated with you as much as it did with me. Thank you so much for watching and being a part of this community. Today, I want to share a story that truly touched my heart, a powerful reminder of how connection can transform a life. It's a story about finding your voice, even when you think it's lost forever, and the incredible impact of someone simply seeing you. So, settle in, because this one is truly inspiring. Our story begins with a little girl named Sia. Her world, once vibrant and full of laughter, tragically fell silent when she was just 7 years old. A devastating accident stole her parents, and with them Sia's ability to speak. Imagine at such a tender age, having your entire world crumble and your voice disappear into the silence. It's an unimaginable weight for anyone, let alone a child. After the accident, Sia found herself in an orphanage, a place that, while providing shelter, often felt lonelier than any empty house. The other children, understandably, didn't quite know how to connect with her. Her silence set her apart, creating an invisible barrier. She wasn't deliberately excluded, but she often faded into the background, an unnoticed presence in a busy, boisterous world. It was as if her silence made her invisible to most, but Sia had a quiet companion, a solace in her silent world, a window. She'd spend hours there, observing the world outside, a silent spectator to life happening beyond the glass, and in her small, quiet space, she'd draw, not with fancy art supplies, but with broken crayons, remnants of forgotten art projects, sketching her inner world onto scraps of paper. These drawings were her secret language, her silent screams, her whispers of a life she couldn't articulate. The days at the orphanage continued in this quiet rhythm for Sia until one day a new presence arrived. Mr. Kieran, a new art teacher, stepped into their lives. He wasn't like the others. He noticed things. He noticed the quiet girl by the window, the one who never spoke, the one whose drawings seemed to hold a profound depth beyond her years. He saw Sia not just as a silent child, but as an individual with an inner world begging to be expressed. Mr. Kieran didn't push, he didn't demand, he simply observed. He watched Sia, day after day, drawing with her broken crayons, and in that observation he saw her potential, her need, her silent plea. One afternoon, he approached her, not with pity, but with respect. He didn't ask her to speak. Instead, he offered her a gift, a brand new set of paints, vibrant and full of possibility, along with crisp white paper. His simple request was, "Sia, paint your feelings." And so, Sia began to paint. It wasn't an overnight transformation, nor was it easy. Her early canvases were raw, honest reflections of her pain. She painted storms, turbulent skies, dark clouds, heavy rain pouring down, mirroring the chaos she felt inside. She painted tears, not just drops, but rivers of sorrow flowing from unseen eyes. She painted dark skies, starless, moonless expanses that captured the profound emptiness and despair that had enveloped her world since that tragic day. Every stroke was a release, a silent confession of her deepest hurts. Mr. Kieran never judged. He simply provided the space, the tools, and the unwavering presence. He saw her art, and through it, he saw her. Day after day, the storms raged on her canvases. The tears flowed. The skies remained dark, but Mr. Kieran kept coming back, offering gentle encouragement, a quiet nod, a reassuring smile. He never pressured her to change her subject matter. He understood that healing wasn't about forcing happiness, but about acknowledging and processing pain. His consistent, loving attention was a balm to Sia's wounded soul. Then, one morning, something shifted. Sia sat before her easel, and instead of the familiar darkness, her brush moved differently. Slowly, deliberately, a new image began to emerge. A splash of soft orange here, a hint of pale yellow there, pushing back against the lingering blues and greys. On that morning, Sia painted a sunrise, a beautiful, hopeful sunrise, with light breaking through the darkness, chasing away the shadows. It was a beacon of hope, a fragile promise of a new day. Mr. Kieran, seeing this profound change, approached her with a gentle curiosity. He knelt beside her, his voice soft, filled with wonder. He asked, "What changed, Sia?" It was a simple question, but it carried the weight of years of unspoken emotions. Sia looked at her painting, then at Mr. Kieran, her eyes filled with a gratitude she couldn't yet articulate, and then, for the first time in years, A whisper escaped her lips. A fragile sound, barely audible, yet momentous. She whispered, "Someone finally saw me." That whisper was more than just words. It was the unlocking of a soul. It was the moment Sia found her voice again, not just in speaking, but in knowing she was worthy of being seen and heard. Mr. Kieran's unwavering belief, his patient understanding, his simple act of providing a medium for her expression, it had broken through the silence and shattered the walls she had built around herself. From that day forward, Sia's art flourished. The sunrises became more vibrant, the colors richer, the stories more profound. She still painted the depths of human emotion, but now there was always a glimmer of light, a whisper of hope, a testament to resilience. Her canvases began to speak volumes, telling tales of pain overcome, of healing found, of the enduring power of connection. Years passed. Sia grew up, nurtured by the foundation of acceptance and understanding that Mr. Kieran had provided. Her paintings, once confined to orphanage walls, began to capture the attention of the art world. Her unique style, her profound emotional depth and her incredible journey resonated with people everywhere. Soon her art was hanging in prestigious galleries across the world. Each piece, a testament to her past, her healing and her newfound voice, was signed with a single powerful word: heard. The message of Sia's story is profound and incredibly important. It reminds us that sometimes all a soul truly needs is to be seen. Not judged, not fixed, not even understood in every detail, but simply acknowledged, recognized, and validated. When we feel seen, truly seen, it creates a space for us to process, to heal, and to find our authentic voice once more. Think about the Sias in your own life, or perhaps even in yourself. Who might be silently struggling, feeling invisible? Who might be waiting for someone to simply offer them a space, a broken crayon, or a new set of paints to express what they can't articulate? It's not always about grand gestures. Sometimes it's just about being present, offering an ear, or providing a creative outlet without judgment. Sia's journey teaches us that trauma can silence us, but connection can help us reclaim our voice. It shows us the immense power of empathy, the quiet strength of a teacher who dared to look beyond the surface, and the transformative magic of art as a means of expression. Her story is a beacon of hope, illustrating that even in the deepest silence, there is always the potential for a sunrise, for a whisper to become a voice, and for a life to be profoundly heard. Thank you so much for joining me today and listening to Sia's inspiring story. I hope it resonated with you as much as it did with me. You never know when your simple act of seeing someone might just change their world. Welcome, wonderful people, to a story that I truly believe will warm your heart and perhaps even reignite a little spark within you. Grab a comfy seat, maybe a cup of tea, and let's dive into a tale about light, legacy, and what truly matters. Imagine, if you will, a small picturesque coastal town, the kind where the sea wind carries the scent of salt and, if you're lucky, a hint of jasmine from blooming gardens. In this charming little place, tucked away between two much grander, bustling shops, lived an old man named Harry. Harry wasn't flashy, he wasn't loud, but his hands, oh, his hands. They were worn, yes, by years of dedicated work, but also remarkably gentle. And his eyes? They held a quiet wisdom, a kindness that seemed to peer right into your soul. Harry was a candle maker. Not just any candle maker, mind you. Every single candle he crafted meticulously with love and patience seemed to hold a quiet soul within it. You could almost feel the peace emanating from them. His shop, as I mentioned, was tiny, easy to overlook. The bigger stores on either side, full of shiny modern things, often seemed to mock his humble simplicity. Most people, caught up in their busy lives, rarely gave Hari or his quaint little shop a second glance. That is, until the storm clouds gathered. You know those nights, don't you? When the sky turns an angry grey, the wind howls like a hungry wolf, and suddenly, with a flicker and a sigh, the entire town is plunged into darkness. It was on those very nights, when the modern lights failed, that Hari's quiet little shop became a beacon. His handcrafted candles, seemingly insignificant moments before, transformed into the sole source of light, guiding stumbling footsteps and offering comfort in the sudden, eerie silence. They were more than just wax and wick. They were tiny stars in a world gone dark. Now Hari had a son, a young man named Arav. Arav was a bright, ambitious boy, full of dreams that stretched far beyond the gentle flicker of wax and flame. He loved his father, he truly did, but he often felt a restless yearning for something more. "Father," he'd say, his voice full of youthful impatience, "why do we stay in this small shop, in this small town, when the whole world is so vast, so full of possibilities? You create light, yes, but you never step out into it yourself. You just let others take it and go." Hari, bless his patient heart, would simply smile. It wasn't a dismissive smile, but one filled with deep understanding. He'd look at his son, his eyes crinkling at the corners, and say very softly, "One day, my dear son, you will understand. Light, true light, doesn't need to travel far to make a profound difference. Its impact isn't measured by how widely it spreads, but by how deeply it touches." Arav, though he cherished his father, found these words puzzling. He couldn't quite grasp the profound truth hidden within them. He believed impact meant reach, meant grandeur, meant being seen by everyone. As the years drifted by, Arav's youthful restlessness only grew stronger. The small town, the quiet life, the slow pace of candle-making, it all felt like a cage to his soaring ambitions. He longed for the thrill of the city, the challenge of a fast-paced world where success was loud and tangible. So one day, with a heavy heart but an eager spirit, Arav packed his bags and left his father and the coastal town behind. He chased success, fame and fortune in the sprawling, bustling metropolis. Life in the city initially felt exhilarating. It was bright, dazzling, a constant carnival of lights and opportunities. But beneath the glittering surface, a strange, persistent loneliness began to creep in. The noise was endless, a cacophony of voices and sirens and chatter. Yet paradoxically, no one truly seemed to listen. He climbed the corporate ladder with impressive speed, achieving every professional goal he set for himself. He had a fancy apartment, a high-flying career, and all the trappings of success. Yet, despite it all, something always felt missing. It was like a magnificent room, brilliantly lit, but devoid of any genuine warmth. The kind of warmth his father's candles seemed to possess effortlessly. Then, one quiet afternoon, amidst the sterile efficiency of his city office, a letter arrived. It wasn't a business email or a bill or a corporate memo. It was an old-fashioned handwritten letter, tucked into a familiar envelope. His heart gave a strange little lurch when he saw the familiar script. He opened it slowly. The words inside were few, but they hit him like a tidal wave of emotion. "My dear son," it read, in his father's steady hand, "I'm proud of the man you've become. If you ever return home, I've left something special for you in the shop. With all my love, Papa." A chilling realization washed over Arav. If you ever return home, his father's gentle way of telling him, Hari was gone. Without a moment's hesitation, without even stopping to pack, Arav rushed home. The journey felt endless, each mile a poignant reminder of the distance he had put between himself and his roots. When he finally arrived back in his beloved coastal town, a wave of bitter-sweet nostalgia washed over him. He hurried to the familiar street, his heart pounding in his chest. The shop, his father's shop, stood closed. Its once vibrant wooden sign was now faded, weathered by sun and sea spray. The windows were dusty, the entrance silent, almost forlorn. A profound sense of emptiness filled the air, replacing the familiar scent of wax and warmth. Hari was truly gone. With trembling hands, Arav pushed open the creaky door. The shop was dark, quiet, a solemn echo of the bustling place he remembered. He walked slowly, his eyes scanning every familiar corner, every worn shelf. And there, on the old work table, exactly where his father would meticulously craft his candles, sat a single unlit candle. Beside it, another note, placed carefully, almost reverently. Arav picked up the small piece of paper. His father's elegant script danced before his eyes. "This is my very last candle, my son. I never sold it, not because it wasn't good enough, but because it was always meant for you. Light it, my dear Arav, when you feel lost. Light it when you forget who you truly are and what truly matters. Tears welled up in Arav's eyes, blurring the words. His hands, which had so confidently navigated complex city dealings, now trembled uncontrollably as he reached for the matches. With a soft scrape, a tiny flame erupted, then touched the wick of the last candle. The flame caught, small and hesitant at first, then steady, burning softly, beautifully, and in that very instant, something magical happened. The shop, which had been so cold and silent, seemed to breathe again. A faint, almost imperceptible scent of jasmine, so characteristic of his father's favorite candles, seemed to fill the air. The gentle light from the single candle danced across the dusty walls, illuminating the faint, ghostly shadows where his father's hands, his very presence, used to work, creating beauty and light. Overwhelmed by a sudden, profound realization, Arav broke down. He wept, not just for the loss of his father, but for the years he had spent chasing the wrong kind of light. In that quiet, glowing space, he finally understood. He understood what his father had meant all those years ago. True light isn't about fame or grandeur or how far it travels. It's not about being seen by everyone or accumulating material success. No, true light is about warmth. It's about presence. It's about love, kindness, and making a difference, even in the smallest, most unassuming ways. It's about igniting a spark in one heart at a time. From that day forward, Arav made a choice. He didn't return to the city. He didn't reopen the shop under Hari's candles. Instead, he lovingly restored the old place, giving it a new name, the Light Within. He continued his father's legacy, but with a new purpose, a purpose born from understanding. He began teaching children how to make candles, not to sell them, not for profit or prestige, but to gift them to those who had lost hope, to those who needed a little warmth, a little reminder that even in darkness a light can be found. Every single night, as he meticulously closed the shop, the scent of jasmine and warm wax lingering in the air, Arav would pause. He'd look at the flickering flames of the candles he had made, the candles the children had made, and he'd whisper softly a tender prayer into the quiet night. Papa, your light still burns here, brighter than ever. And that, my friends, is the heart of the message I wanted to share with you today. You don't have to light up the whole world to make a difference. You don't need grand gestures or widespread recognition. Sometimes, the most profound impact, the most enduring legacy, comes from simply lighting one heart at a time, from offering a simple act of kindness, a warm smile, a moment of presence. That is how the darkness truly fades. That is how we build a world filled with genuine warmth and connection. Thank you so much for spending this time with me today. If this story touched your heart even a little, please consider giving this video a thumbs up, sharing it with someone who might need to hear it, and subscribing to the channel for more stories that aim to inspire and uplift. Your support means the world. Until next time, keep shining your light in whatever quiet, beautiful way you choose.